America has problems.
Americans are not winning their battle against obesity.
Gun violence is surging across the U.S. So far this year, there have already been 154 mass shootings.
1 in 5 Americans are in collections for medical debt. 2/3 of all bankruptcies in the U.S. are tied to medical debt.
America is the most obese country, the most medicated country, the country with by far the highest anxiety rates. And in the US, tens of thousands are killed by gun violence every year. This is a problem that is getting worse with little solutions in sight. Many of us are wondering if America is on the decline. For the first time, the US even was on the list of backsliding democracies, pointing to a quote, visible deterioration that began back in 2019. There is a lot of talk about American decline. It's this whole idea that the US is losing its power economically, financially, politically, and even militarily. I mean, the US just launched a program to slim down its troops because there weren't enough who were physically fit for duty. So is the US actually in decline, or is this just being super critical of the world's superpower? Because in a way, that's been done since the US was founded. 30 years ago, in 1992, Harvard Business Review published this article titled, "Is America in Decline?" And the article stated, a nation once celebrated for its irresponsible optimism now appears to be obsessed by decline. America's list of complaints seem endless. Real wages are falling, productivity growth is down, companies aren't competitive in global markets, white-collar jobs are no longer secure, the nation's infrastructure is collapsing, the federal deficit is soaring, the health system is deteriorating, the cities are unsafe, the schools are falling, the gap between the rich and poor is widening. Imagine, the reporter wrote that the cities are unsafe. If only he could see downtown Los Angeles or San Francisco in 2023. But maybe our problems are not worsening per se, maybe they're just changing and evolving. But despite all the sad and completely legitimate problems that America does face, there is one main reason that the US is winning, especially right now. And I only realized this after my travels. Last year, I visited 23 countries, and I realized that people still really like America. Many want to move to the US. So I asked myself why, despite all these problems, do so many people still say they want to move to the US? Is it the influence of Hollywood? No. I realized it's this, the US dollar. When two companies want to do business, it's usually done with this, even if they're not in the US. In fact, 11 countries besides the US have officially adopted the US dollar as their official currency. Ecuador, El Salvador, and Panama. I mean, this is what comes out of their ATMs. Meanwhile, other countries unofficially use this constantly, like Cambodia and recently Lebanon. This piece of paper is ultimately what holds power over every other country. People want to get paid in this. I mean, look at what's happened to the currency of Russia, Turkey, or Lebanon just in the past few years. And the US dollar isn't just stable, but compared to like the euro, it's on fire.
Is the US dollar replaceable? For decades, the US greenback has essentially been the de facto global currency.
I don't want to be overly dramatic, but I think I will use the word doomed.
When there is instability in other countries, people need a safe place to put their money or to make money in. So when there's a crisis in Venezuela or Russia or Lebanon, it only makes this more desirable to people because it's something you actually trust. Take Argentina, for example. It usually has 50% annual inflation, but last year it reached 100% inflation. So no one wants to hold that currency. So literally what they do is the moment they get paid, they go and buy all their groceries they need. Because if they wait even a day or two, those prices will get higher. And then with whatever money they have left, they convert it into US dollars and stash it under their mattress. Yes, that's not an expression. Millions of Argentinians actually have USD under their mattresses and pillows. In fact, it's estimated that 75% of $100 bills are not used in the US, they're used abroad. Even when companies in Asia are buying or selling goods and services, they aren't using Chinese yuan or the Japanese yen. They're using this. 3 in 4 transactions in the Asia-Pacific region were in US dollar. So what is with the world's obsession over the US dollar? There are 3 main reasons here. Number 1, The US dollar is strong because it is widely accepted. That means a lot of businesses and countries are willing to accept US dollars as payments. This makes it easy for people to use US dollars when they travel or buy things from other countries. It's a basic concept of demand. If everyone agrees that we value this, then it becomes valuable. You can also apply this to Prada and why it sells $2,000 handbags. And you can even apply it to Bitcoin. When we collectively see Bitcoin as valuable, its prices go up. When we don't, its prices go down. The second reason is that the United States is a safe and stable country. Despite mass shootings and the Capitol building be stormed by rioters, you can almost guarantee that the country won't fall into complete chaos and lose law and order. So this means people feel safe investing their money in the United States because they know that it is unlikely that anything bad will happen to it. And when people feel safe, they're more likely to use that country's money. Finally, the US dollar is strong because the US government works hard to keep it that way. The government does this by controlling how much money is in circulation and by making sure that the economy stays strong. Now, you could say that maybe it didn't do a very good job of this over the past 2 years. During the pandemic, it gave out a lot of money and benefits that ultimately led to record inflation. The US dollar saw its highest inflation in 40 years. That means that it's losing its value no differently than how the Argentinian peso is losing its value too. It's just that this is happening at obviously a much smaller rate. So despite all the problems in America, you simply cannot deny that as long as people see this as valuable, it will still hold a lot of power. So now that we know how valuable the US dollar is, could it be threatened? I mean, yes, sort of, but not really. The euro is a possible good contender, but it's fallen to a 20-year low to the US dollar, so people don't really want that. The Chinese yuan, well, possibly, but only 3% of global trade is done in Chinese yuan right now. How about Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin was deemed to be the biggest threat to the US dollar. But seeing how much of its value has been lost the past 6 months is making people really question its legitimacy. Some people even wondering if it could go to zero. So the answer is no. The US dollar simply can't be replaced, at least for now. There is no viable contender, and as long as this currency is so high in demand, it will continue to win. Around the world, most countries hold what's called reserve currencies. Think of this as a currency that's used for investments, transactions, and paying debt. Globally, the share of foreign exchange reserves of the US dollar is about 60%. But that's actually falling, and it's now at a 25-year low. But look at this chart. Yes, the US dollar did fall from 70% to 60% over the past 25 years. But just tell me this, where is the competition?